in the world today. It is an important step, but it's not enough. We must accelerate climate action to keep alive the goal of limiting global temperature to rise to 1.5 degrees, said Antonio Guterres in a video statement released at the close of the two-week meeting. The UN chief added that it is time to go into emergency mode, adding fossil fuel subsidies, phasing out coal, putting a price on carbon, protecting vulnerable communities, and delivering the 100 billion climate finance commitment. We did not achieve these goals at this conference, but we have some building blocks for progress, he said. The outcome document, known as the Glasgow Climate Pact, calls on 197 countries to report their progress towards more climate ambition next year at COP27, set to take place in Egypt. The outcomes also also firms up the global agreement to accelerate action on climate this decade.
Now, in our second story, protesters face tear gas and bullets to oppose Sudan coup. 5 protesters were killed on Saturday as huge crowds defied gunfire and tear gas in Sudan's capital Khartoum and other cities to demonstrate against a military takeover, witnesses and medics said. In a sign, authorities may be stepping up efforts to quash a campaign of planned protests and civil disobedience. Security forces moved to disperse protesters as soon as they began to gather in the early afternoon. They fired tear gas and chased demonstrators down side streets to prevent them from reaching central meeting points, witnesses said. Now, witnesses estimated the numbers around Khartoum to be in the tens of thousands, with large crowds in other cities bringing the total nationwide to hundreds of thousands. A medic at Khartoum's Royal Care Hospital told Reuters it had received 1 fatality and 29 wounded, including some with serious injuries. Sudanese police said they did not use firearms during the protests, which they said began peacefully but went off track. They said 39 policemen were injured and stations were attacked, triggering arrests.
U.S. blacklists Eritrean military over conflict in Ethiopia. The United States on Friday imposed sanctions on the Eritrean military and other Eritrean-based individuals and entities as it seeks to increase pressure on parties to the conflict to bring an end to fighting in northern Ethiopia. In a statement, the U.S. Treasury Department said it blacklisted Eritrea military, its ruling political party, the People's Front for Democracy and Justice, the party's economic advisor, and the head of Eritrean National Security Office, accusing them of contributing to the conflict in neighboring Ethiopia. Treasury will continue to use all our tools and authorities to target and impose those whose actions prolong the crisis in the region where hundreds of thousands are suffering, he said. Also blacklisted on Friday was Hydrid Trust, which the Treasury said is the holding company of all business enterprises of the Eritrean ruling party, and the Red Sea Trading Corporation, which manages its property and financial interest. The year-long conflict in northern Ethiopia has killed thousands and forced more than 2 million people from their homes. Fighting has spread from Tigray into neighboring Afar and Amhara regions.
Staying with Tigray, Tigrayan forces say they will hunt down foreign mercenaries. Rebellious Tigray forces threatened on Friday to hunt down foreigners they said were supporting the Ethiopian government as mercenaries and technical experts in a year-long war. Tigray People's Liberation Front spokesperson Getachew Reda said the foreigners could be from Turkey, China, Israel, or the United Arab Emirates. Government spokesperson Legesse Tulu did not immediately respond to a request for comment. There have been no independently verified reports of the warring sides using mercenaries to date. The government declared a state of emergency on 2 November. The warring parties, the Ethiopian government and the rebellious Tigrayan forces, have so far rejected calls from the United States, the United Nations and the African Union for a ceasefire. Both sides have set conditions that the other rejects.
Nigerian Army General troop killed in ISWAP attack. A Nigerian Army general and 3 soldiers were killed on Saturday during an attack by Islamic State West Africa Province militants in the northeast of the country, the army and sources said. ISWAP split from Boko Haram 5 years ago and pledged allegiance to Islamic State and has been fighting against the Nigerian armed forces. Army spokesperson Brigadier General Oyema said troops had encountered ISWAP fighting in Borno State, Akirasa Uba local government area, where a fierce battle took place and several militants were killed. Thirdly, a gallant senior officer, Brigadier General Zamazi Kusu, and 3 soldiers paid the supreme sacrifice as they provided reinforcement in a counter-offensive against terrorists, Nyakuchu said in a statement. Borno State is at the center of the Islamist insurgency, which has spilled into neighboring Chad and Cameroon, and has left about 300,000 people dead and millions dependent on aid, the United Nations says.
In our next story, attack on Burkina Faso defense outpost kills 20. Gunmen have killed at least 19 gendarmes and a civilian in northern Burkina Faso in the tri-border region where the country has for years been battling armed groups. Security Minister Maxime Kone told state media on Sunday the toll from the attack on a military police outpost near a gold mine in Inata was provisional. This morning, a detachment of the gendarmerie suffered a cowardly and barbaric attack. They held their position, Kone said, adding that 22 survivors had been found. It came 2 days after another assault in which 7 police officers were killed in the area near Niger and Mali. Attacks by armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIL have continued to intensify in the tri-border area, despite the presence of thousands of United Nations, regional and Western troops, and efforts by some governments to negotiate with the fighters.
Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, son of Libya ex-ruler, runs for president. The son of Libya's late leader Muammar al-Gaddafi has registered as a candidate in the country's first direct presidential elections next month. Saif al-Salam Gaddafi was once the heir apparent to his father, but his support for a brutal crackdown on protesters 10 years ago tarnished his image. Photos and videos circulating online show Saif al-Islam Gaddafi sitting in front of a poster for the upcoming poll, signing electoral papers. Disagreements between Libya's political bodies and opposing factions about the election rulers and the schedule have threatened to derail the presidential vote. Rights groups have raised fears for the vote schedule on the 24th of December will not be free and fair. World powers and the UN Secretary General have warned that anyone who tries to obstruct it or falsify the outcome will face sanctions.
In the next story, AU troops sentenced to death for civilian killings in Somalia. 5 Ugandan soldiers serving with the African Union mission in Somalia have been found guilty of killing 7 civilians, with 2 sentenced to death and the other 3 given 39-year prison terms each, AMISOM has said. After sitting from the 2nd to the 12th of November 2021 and reviewing all the facts, including witness statements, the court-martial on 12th November 2021 found the soldiers guilty of killing the civilians. An AMISOM statement issued late on Saturday said, "This is not the first time Ugandan soldiers in Somalia have been implicated in illegal activities. Human rights groups have alleged cases of sexual misconduct and civilian killings, but when investigations have been conducted by AMISOM, the soldiers are routinely exonerated." In 2016, 9 Ugandan soldiers were found guilty of illegally selling fuel meant for AMISOM to civilians. the first time such a case was tried in Somalia since the AU mission deployed in 2007.
A government withdraws support for Miss South Africa at Israel event. The South African government has said it is distancing itself from a decision by the Miss South Africa pageant organizers to participate in the annual Miss Universe contest due to it being held next month in Israel. The decision on Sunday came after growing calls for the reigning Miss South Africa Lalela Mswane to boycott the pageant that is scheduled to take place in Elite on the 12th of December 2021. Beauty organizers have been adamant that the recently crowned Miss South Africa should go to the event, arguing that Miss Universe pageant is not a politically inspired event. It has proven difficult to persuade Miss South Africa pageant organizers to reconsider their decisions to partake in the Miss Universe event, the Arts and Culture Ministry said in a statement. The government therefore withdraws its support following the organizers' intransigence and disregard of advice. Arts Minister Natim Tetwa said the move to go ahead and participate in the event could prove disastrous to Mswane's future and public standing as a young black woman.
In our next story, lost 4,500-year-old temple unearthed in Egypt. Archaeologists in Egypt say they've made one of the most important discoveries in decades. They have found one of the 4 lost sun temples built by the pharaohs while they were still alive in an attempt to turn themselves into living gods. It is believed that only 6 sun temples were built by Egyptian pharaohs some 4,500 years ago. Just 2 of them have been unearthed so far, so archaeologists are describing the discovery of a 3rd such structure as the biggest find for 50 years. Whilst the enormous pyramids were designed to ensure the pharaoh's status as a god in the afterlife, the sun temples were smaller structures and were meant to enshrine them as living gods, which means they may well have been cheaper and more effective at ensuring a pharaoh's divinity.
Nigerian interfaith women group awarded the Archon Peace Prize. Countering violence with peace is the goal of the Women's Interfaith Council, which represents thousands of Muslim and Christian women in Kaduna, Nigeria. The group has been awarded the Archon Peace Prize for their work. We are so happy, we are still happy and will continue to be happy, explained Jahuratu Ahmed Iliu. And now we are international superstars, Elizabeth Majinya Abuk added, laughing. The organization is being honored for its work in the Nigerian state of Kaduna, where Christians and Muslims stand together for peaceful coexistence. WIC was founded in 2010 to counter the effects of the escalating violence. The organization's women visit victims of attacks, providing them with personal support and organizing further training for other women and young people. WIC also offers support through a community, ensuring that women of both religion unite and celebrate important holidays together. The Holy Bible and the Holy Quran speak peaceful coexistence. Why don't the leaders teach what is in the scripture? Sister Veronica asked. The WIC is made up of several thousand women who are organized in 23 individual associations.
What a beautiful story on International Tolerance Day. Now, in the last of our top stories, Ghana turns sugarcane farming waste into organic fertilizer. An initiative in Ghana's Volta region is showing farmers how to turn their sugarcane waste into an organic fertilizer that's beneficial for depleted soil. In Ghana, sugarcane was once big business, but around 40 years ago, the industry started to decline, and today all the country's large factories are closed. But that major downturn did not stop Audrey S. Darko from wanting to know more. Together with other students, she founded the Sabon Sake project and got in touch with small farmers who mainly grow sugarcane. Using biotechnology in her university's laboratory, the young Ghanaians developed a biocompost fertilizer from sugarcane waste that could ensure better soil quality. She has also started an organic farm and brought together a network of 30 sugarcane farmers who have committed to using sustainable cultivation methods. You know, if the last two stories have told me something, is that Africa will only change when African women are supported.
Yeah.
This is Africa Good Morning. We have more news for you after the break.
This is our happy song. Take this ring and put it on a perfect smile, a perfect fit. We can't go wrong. Hey, let's stop the world. Just a boy and girl. Today we'll start together. Today we'll start forever. Ever, ever, oh. Ever, ever, oh. Today we'll start. What if we laughed?
Now, in Namibia, protesters yesterday called on the Minister of Home Affairs, Albert Kawana, President Hage Geingob, and other ministries to stop using taxpayers' money to discriminate against LGBTQ people in Namibia. This after the Home Affairs Minister appealed to overturn a High Court decision granting citizenship to the children of Namibian Philip Lull, who is in a same-sex marriage. In this regard, Lo Breitenbach, a South African national who was voted as Mr. Gay 2021 and who serves as the out and proud ambassador to Namibia, spoke to Africa Good Morning about the Namibian government's decision to the High Court ruling. He spoke to Yana Marie Smith. Have a look.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Could you just briefly say who you are and what your link to Namibia is?
Sure, thank you so much. I've been an ambassador for Out and Proud for the past 2 years, and obviously they work very extensively with Namibia and the Equality Acts there. And I'm also the current reigning Mr. Gay World, so that affords me the opportunity to hopefully try and make a difference around the world and speak to issues equality within the LGBTIQA+ community.
You spoke out last week against an appeal that was lodged at the Supreme Court. Could you just tell me what is your feeling about this appeal? Why did you condemn it?
Yeah, I think when we had that landmark ruling on the 13th of October with Judge Masuku, I think the whole world looked at Namibia and said, wow, progress is being made within Africa, not just South Africa, but since there are 34 African countries where homosexuality is still criminalized, we celebrated that progress is being made for the struggle of equality right around the world and in Africa as a continent. And I think it's so heartbreaking to know that there's an appeal on this and that the Ministry of Home Affairs is actually considering to take back its regressive stance, because it's not only a step backwards for the parents fighting for equality to provide a safe and healthy home for their children, it's an entire step backward for the entire Namibian community that is working towards a more inclusive society. And that's why it's so heartbreaking, because it's not just this case, it also sets the bar for all other cases to follow.
What is the opportunity here for Namibia, and what is the opportunity here for the courts of Namibia in particular?
Sure. I think very interestingly, Namibia sits with a situation very much similar to South Africa many years ago when our apartheid laws were challenged, because it's no different to fight for equality and inclusion based on skin color than it is to fight for equality and inclusion based on sexual orientation. And I think the opportunity here is for Namibians to move forward to the 21st century and say we're taking hands with the global community, where perceptions have been changed about what it means to just be human, to just love, and to be free to love who you want to. It shouldn't be dictated by the state who gets to love who gets to marry who. It is a human right, a basic human right to choose who you want to spend your life with and how you create that family. And I think it's a very archaic view to say that people are supposed to be just straight and heterosexual, and marriage is only between man and woman. There are currently 72 identified gender identities that are scientifically proven. And to go against science based on either religious views or constitutional views, or in this case, rules and regulations that were set out by South Africa when we still colonized, is an opportunity for Namibia to say we are stepping forward as a nation and removing that weight that ties us down into our regressive approaches previously. And I do hope that the courts will continue to challenge the ministry in this sense, because we do fight wherever we are in the world for inclusion, diversity, and a more progressive nation that strives to include everyone.
For someone who's sitting outside of Namibia looking inwards, what do you think the world thinks of this appeal, and what does it say about the stance of the government and this ministry in particular?
I think the problem here is that there are acts within that constitution. If we look at Act 10 that's being challenged at the moment, it says that there is no discrimination allowed based on these instances, whether it be gender or religion or the color of your skin. And I think we need to push through on those acts and say, why are all people not protected under this constitution? If you are a country that is free and you have elected officials that are in power for the people, why are they only protecting some people? Why are some Namibians excluded from that protection? Why are some Namibians who have voted for the people in power not receiving the same protection, the same care, and the same provision from the government that the government so freely allows to everyone else? They also voted. They are also part of Namibia. In this case, Philip has Namibian citizenship. So I don't see why he should not also then, or in the case of Mercedes, why they should not also then receive the same protection from the elected officials there to serve the people. And if you are elected to serve the people, then the only time you can say that you are not discriminating is if you dehumanize them and you don't see their humanity, because they already are discriminating just by the fact that they are, in this specific case, asking for a DNA sample, because in heterosexual normatives, there is no such thing in the Namibian constitution asking heterosexual parents to identify their DNA when they have used surrogacy as a preferred method to create a family. And that is what we should be challenging.
Do you have a message as an ambassador to Namibia for Namibians overall and for government that you would like to share?
Absolutely. I think more a plea and an appeal to view this regressive stance, and for Namibians specifically to hold their elected officials accountable to serve all Namibians. No one's asking you to challenge your religious views. No one's asking you to change your lifestyle. We are simply asking you to allow all people to live freely as they choose and to love who they want to love. And love will always drive out hate. And if whether it be your religion or your constitution that teaches you to hate, then you should probably start questioning whether you are really acting on behalf of all citizens within that country. Because what we all strive for in the global community is greater inclusion, greater diversity, and greater representation of all minorities. And to deny one minority right is to deny an entire world of people who are looking at Namibia with bated breath for them to say, make the right choice. Let people be seen, let them be heard, and stop dehumanizing people who are different than you simply based on the fact that you don't understand how they live and why they get to live.
Thank you, Lo, for this very powerful message. And thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. It was wonderful
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Strike it gold and win 5,000 Namibian dollars in cash with Neo Paints. Simply buy Neo Paints products from the selected range and stand a chance to get one of 12 mystery buckets filled with gold paint. All 12 winners will each get 3 extra paint buckets equal to their purchase. One to replace the gold paint, the second to use on your project, and the third to give to a charity of their choice. One winner can score another 10,000 Namibian dollars by showing us your creative use of the golden paint. The best project wins the cash. Offer is valid from 27 September to 18 December at your favorite hardware store nationwide. Visit us at neopaints.com for more competition details and follow us on Facebook for weekly competition updates. Neo Paints, a coat of excellence.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. Talent Gore in the House of Stone has the news making headlines in Zimbabwe. Good morning, Talent. How are you?
Good morning, Aina. Good morning, Ashwin. I'm good. How are you doing?
We are fantastic. We understand the government of Zimbabwe is to give a civil servant a bonus in US dollars. Wow. We could really use one, even us here. Tell us about this.
So last week, teachers' unions threatened to boycott the invigilation of this year's Zimbabwe School Examination Council examinations unless their bonuses are paid in US dollars. So they wrote to the Minister of Finance asking them that they should pay them in US dollars. So the government has since responded and has said that they are going to give the civil servants their bonuses, their 13th check for this year in US dollars. They have said that civil servants will this year be paid their bonuses in foreign currency up to a maximum of 700 US dollars, and civil service pensioners who receive bonus payments of 100 US dollars plus an extra 8 US dollars for spouses. The government also announced that it would pay annual bonuses of war veterans in foreign currency. So the bonuses are set to be paid by the end of November, and the government is expected to pay out over 90 million US dollars. So they have since said that they can afford to pay the civil servants in US dollars, and they are ready to give the 90 million US dollars to all the civil servants and all the war veterans and civil service pensioners.
Well, good on them for getting their requests met. As the African meme says, you must ask.
Yes.
You must ask. All right, in our next story, Zimbabwe. In our next story, Zimbabwe experiences prolonged power cuts. This must be really frustrating.
So for the past few weeks, Zimbabwe has been battling with load shedding. We are going for up to 12 hours without power. So the Zimbabwe Power Utility Company has actually announced a schedule. They have actually announced a power cut schedule whereby power goes from around 9 a.m. in the morning and it comes back around 10 p.m. So you find that now most people are now relying on generators and solar power energy because we hardly have power, and the situation is even made worse because most people are not going to their workplaces. They are working from home because of COVID-19, and we're still in lockdown. So I find that people are now finding it hard to work from home because we hardly have power. The Zimbabwe Electricity Distribution Company has said that the situation will be normalized, but say that at the moment, combination of limited generation capacity and repairs to power infrastructure is the cause of load shedding. And at the moment, Zimbabwe needs an average of 1,750 megawatts, but as it stands, we are being they have the power to supply only around 1,200 megawatts in 1,600 megawatts. So they say that they're going to restore power back to normal, but they do not know when that is going to happen. So as it stands, we're having power outages, and there are places whereby they've gone for 2 weeks without power.
All right, Zimbabwe's Warriors are out of the 2022 FIFA World Cup campaign. Please tell us.
So the Zimbabwe Warriors have been eliminated from the 2022 FIFA World Cup. On Sunday, Zimbabwe played against Ethiopia at the National Sports Stadium here in Zimbabwe, and they drew 1-1. So last week, the Warriors had also played Ghana and they lost 1-0. So we have since been eliminated from the 2022 FIFA World Cup, from the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. And after that, we have one player, Kama Billiat, who was the Warriors captain. He has since resigned from international football. So as it stands, we don't have a captain, as he has resigned from international football, and we have been
Wow.
eliminated from the
Yikes.
2022 FIFA World Cup
I
qualifications.
guess I'll have to cancel my flight ticket then. Oh shucks. All right. Thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the news from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very